And welcome back to Mixed Media Live. It's another Monday evening where you get a chance to chat along with us on this live broadcast, on this live podcast. And today we've got a beautiful selection of topics to talk about, as per usual. And, well, first I got to tell you what Mixed Media is. So Mixed Media is a weekly podcast that happens every Monday at usually 9:30 p.m., as you can see on the little label over there. But temporarily, we're streaming at 7:30 p.m. to fit with Ben's schedule, although he's not here right now today. So I guess we're not really taking advantage of that for today. But yeah, what we do is we talk about anything pretty much art-related. We come at it from our own different perspectives, from our own disciplines, some multi-disciplines in some cases. And yeah, we talk about pretty much anything: art, philosophy, news, reviews, business, pretty much anything you could possibly think of. We talk about it with regards to the stuff that we like to talk about. And that's it. It's pretty broad, and sometimes we have guests, and it's a fun time. But before we introduce ourselves, I want to do a shout out to two awesome people, 909 Crime and Rob Sharma, for supporting us at mixedmedia.locals.com, and you can join them by going over there. There's going to be some exclusive content going on there, probably either this week or next week, and that has to do with my own personal YouTube channel, which you can check out at Ariella, and it's going to be great. There's going to be tons, like literally hours and hours of exclusive content that's going to be available on there over the coming month or two or something like that. Slow roll, of course, because, well, I can't give away all the content at once. That wouldn't be good. So with that, we'll introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur, and I own a company called Ariella.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. And our third is usually Ben Costello, and he's a music person, but he's not in for today. So that's it for the intro. What's been going on in your life, Nathan? What's been up?
Quite a while ago. I don't know if I know I wasn't here last time. I guess it happened between last time and now. I got a MIDI keyboard. I didn't mention that before, right? That's new information.
No, I didn't know you got one.
Okay, I got one. I was looking for Black Friday. This is like, so back during Black Friday, I was looking for some Black Friday deals. They don't exist, apparently, for MIDI keyboards. They just... so eventually, after thinking about it for a while, I was bought a full-priced $120 mini MIDI keyboard. Now, it's not a full-size, like, full-size 88 keys or something like that. It's like... It's 40 something. It's 2.5 octaves, whatever that is. 12, okay. 24, 30, 37. Is that the standard? I forget. It's like standard numbers for these things, right? I don't know what it is. It's 2.5 octaves. It's really small. Like it fits on your desk. Like play some stuff. It has drum pads on it. If anyone's wondering, it's the M Audio Pro Mini or something like that.
Okay.
The company's definitely M Audio. I'm very familiar with the company. Yeah, I mean, I was called the M Audio Oxygen Pro Mini. That's what it's called. My review so far. Well, I don't regret buying it at all. Pretty good purchase. Makes music making a lot easier, as one might imagine. It has a bunch of faders and knobs on it too, so you can like edit parameters for things like synthesizers and whatnot, easily on the fly. It doesn't have endless encoders, so if anyone knows what that is, or I guess if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's if you have like a knob on your MIDI keyboard, you're using some software on your computer to create some sounds, right? And you plug it into your computer, and the knobs will change parameters within whatever software you're using. The thing is, let's imagine that I have two different synthesizers, virtual synthesizers I have on my computer, or something like that, or just two things I need to change settings in. Let's say I put my knob halfway on one of them, I go to the other software, well, it's like, okay, now my knob's halfway on one, is halfway, so it's going to register as halfway on the other software once I move to it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Right. Now, what endless encoder does is it makes that not happen. So it'll just stay at whatever it was when you were last there, and you can rotate the knob infinitely, so it has no start or end position. Sounds a really nice feature, but I don't have that. So I guess that's my only complaint is I don't have endless encoders. It just has a start and stop point, and so like if I do a whole bunch of like editing on one synth, it's like okay, I want to go to another one. It's like either all my settings get messed up, or I have to remember where to put the knobs and stuff like that again, or stuff like that. So yeah, otherwise pretty good. Technically, it comes with 3 DAWs, which is like, wow, that's crazy. So I found out what those DAWs were. I was like, oh. It comes with Ableton Live Lite, which Ableton, big name, a good DAW, right? But the issue is it's Live Lite. The light part is the issue, and basically you have no features.
Wow.
More specifically, you can have up to 8 tracks, like within a song, which like is not a lot, unless you're doing like very simple, like I don't know, like even for like simple like rock band of like drums and like some guitars and a bass, like you probably want to like duplicate things, right, and like make edits and stuff like that. Like 8 tracks is not that much, so I was like I'm not even using that. It comes with MPC Beats, which is more of like a beat making software, so it's like more like things like rap beats. It's not really I'm interested in, so it's not really useful for me. And it comes with something else. Oh, it comes with Pro Tools, which is actually good, right? But that's more for like, as I understand, working with non-MIDI things, which is kind of funny. It comes with a MIDI controller. It's more for like vocals and stuff like that, is what I understand, or just raw audio and stuff like that. So yeah, that's been going on.
Nice. Sweet. For me, nothing too crazy. Well, I dropped my second video of my part 2 of my little video series, and was happy to see that well, I mean, obviously the success of like going like little mini locally viral for the first one wasn't going to repeat itself, but seeing like the slow trickle upward, I was like, oh sweet. And then seeing the types of YouTube videos I'm being recommended alongside of, I was like, this is working. I found a video of I can't remember the name of the channel, but it's like by a coffee company, and it's like practically the same exact genre, like down to the T. And I didn't know such a thing existed, but like literally hitting like some of the same beats, the same style, like, and I was like, some of even the same music choices, and I'm like, apparently I'm part of some hive mind I didn't know I was part of. But YouTube found it, I guess, and paired things, so that's cool. Yeah, and besides that, not terribly much. Yeah, just business as usual.
Nice.
Sweet. Now, some news. Well, what about news in the gaming world?
Okay, so we have kind of an interesting one. So the Game Awards happened December 8th. The front runners in my head for Game of the Year were God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, and Elden Ring won. That won quite a few awards, and so did God of War. If you don't know, Elden Ring is made by From Software and published by Bandai Namco, the same people behind Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Yeah, so there's a video I sent to Irving that we're going to pull up. And it's kind of interesting what happens. There's a bit of a situation that happens at the end of the Game Awards when the From Software folks are giving their acceptance speech. Thank you for giving me Game of the Year, whatever. Yeah, so I'm just gonna stall until then.
Sorry, I should have had this. I didn't realize it had to do with this. I thought it had to do with your topic.
Oh no, yeah.
Okay.
It's just a really interesting piece of news. If you're on audio only, it's fine. The audio is also, like, you'll understand probably. I'll give context afterwards.
Okay.
But
is there any part I should go to, or like
start at the beginning? But here's some context. So as I said before, they're giving their award speech. This clip starts when their award speech is ending, so you hear them say thank you, whatever, and then you hear a voice afterwards, which is interesting. So yeah.
Okay, let me try to move this to a sane location.
Oh yeah, I can't hear it myself. That's interesting. All right, I'll just
pop this over here. There we go. Okay. Right. And here it is.
Supported these titles. and we create the games we want to create and do our best because of you. Thank you so much.
I think if God of War Ragnarok came out just a few months earlier, it would have a bigger chance.
You know, real quick, I want to thank everybody and say that I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi, Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
Who was that guy?
All right.
Who was that guy?
So yeah. So some person, if you watch you go back even further, some kid, it looks like, just kind of walks up with the whole crew, whole From Software crew, and just is standing on the stage for like a long time, like just behind them.
I love social
looking
engineering
quite official.
like that.
He looks pretty official. He played the part well, you know.
Yeah. He socially
and
engineered them.
And he says in I don't know what kind of accent. He says he's just something along the lines. I couldn't hear it myself, but something along the lines of like, you mentioned his Reformed Orthodox Jewish Rabbi Bill Clinton.
Yes.
So yeah, that was an interesting moment. And then Jeff Keighley, the guy afterwards, kind of ignores it. He's like, "Yeah, I guess it makes sense." Just continues on because it didn't happen.
But my question is like, is that some joke that I should like? It's so random that I just started cracking up. It's just so random.
I don't think anyone knows like what that means. You know, I don't know if that like is an origin to that. You know, like
he had that opportunity, just picked the most random phrase to say. Mm-hmm. Respect.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I wonder if like they give a list of who's going on stage beforehand, or if it's just like, you know, your whole team just goes up, you know, and it's like, it's just kind of like, who cares who comes up, right? Like, you know, and no one expects something really bad to happen, you know. But it's interesting because I don't know if the game. I think the Game Awards. So I know there are invites, right, to certain people. But I believe, at least in the last one, you could just buy tickets as well, right? So there's random people. I don't know. Is it like that for the Oscars, or is it all invites?
The Oscars is all invites only.
Right. Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. So the Game Awards is kind of weird in that regard. So I wonder if he's like, because the thing is, if you look at the video, he's kind of sitting kind of close to the front, which makes me think he's like seems like an invited person, which is kind of funny. So I'm wondering if he's an invited person, you think that people would like know who he is, but it seems like I don't know. At least like when this first happened, you know, I'm sure I don't know. Internet investigators are on the case, but at least when this first happened, nobody knew who this guy was. Like no one could figure it out. There's like some skepticism, there's some ideas, but I was like, nah, it's not that guy in the end, you know.
Yeah.
But if he's like a random invite, I wonder how if they sell tickets close to the front, or if he just like took an empty seat at the front and took his opportunity there.
I feel like he stood just far enough away from the team that they're preoccupied enough with accepting the award that they didn't even like, you know, process the fact that he's there. Like he's standing just far enough.
Yeah, I mean, he could have also just assumed that, you know, he's like some like, I don't know, like someone who's supposed to present after them or something like that. And he's just waiting for his turn, you know. It's like, yeah. Because there's the other guy standing there who presumably, I guess he announced the awards, I guess, you know, or the winner. So yeah, I guess, I mean, in my situation, I probably wouldn't question it, right? There's some other dude there. I'm like, oh, I mean, certainly, like, you know, you're an official-looking person. I mean, I guess you're a kid, but ignore that part.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Sweet. Is that it for gaming news?
I feel like that's something else, but I forgot. So, never mind. This is kind of related to my topic. I didn't talk about this before because I wasn't here when it happened, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the second one, came out along with Warzone 2.0, and right. I mean, it went bad. So that'll be my topic segment. So, you know, let's stick around and find out what went bad if you don't know, and what I'm going to say about it. So, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, so for me, I have a big fat I told you so. And maybe I'm going to do a stream where I just say I told you so for the whole the whole stream, basically. My whole segment will be recounting all the things I've said on the podcast that have come true. We did a whole series on the clandestine in media, and I talked about media manipulation via, a lot of the three-letter agencies in the past, and I gave a stark warning about that existing in the future, now and into the future, and that we need to take such things very seriously. If you recall, we talked about Hitchcock and the CIA. I know a lot of people like that one. We also talked about the history of art, like paintings and stuff like that. Excuse me. And we talked about how the CIA was using those paintings to influence the sort of soft Cold War cultural warfare that was happening at the time, and using that to manipulate people into thinking that certain art was good versus certain art was bad. Well, you've heard of the Twitter files, right, Nathan?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
Okay, well, so Elon took over Twitter, as we all know, and he just started dumping their internal files, basically, through a reporter on Twitter. So he authorized the release of a whole bunch of internal documents. One of the biggest stories, I think, in a long, long time. I think I said that a few times, but I think this is just one of those times in history where it's just back to back to back huge stories. And maybe I'll cover it more in depth later, because this is kind of up the alley of what we were talking about before, and maybe it puts a nice capstone on it. So, stay tuned for that. But so he drops the Twitter files slowly, one at a time, sort of as in like a topical fashion. So, this one's going to be about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what the first topic even was. Can't fully remember. But anyway, so just topically about the spicy things that have happened with censorship on Twitter over the past, however many years at this point. And it has absolutely exploded, because it turns out that the FBI might as well have had an office inside of Twitter to censor tweets. Like, that's the closeness. Like, they were joking about the FBI literally opening up an office inside of Twitter in their internal Slack. They were joking about that because of just how closely they were working together. And if you're not familiar, and we talked about this in our series as well, if you're not familiar, this is a First Amendment violation, because even though it's a private actor, they're being induced by a public actor to censor speech, right? It's the reason why you can't delete comments under government videos. So, like, if the White House, of anyone's White House, posts a video on YouTube, and there's a comment section to begin with, right? Well, they started disabling comments, but maybe that's because they can't delete comments for this exact reason. If they have a comment section on the YouTube video, they cannot censor any of the comments because it implies the First Amendment, if that makes sense, even though it's through a private actor. It's not like you're censoring people on on the lawn of on the mall of Washington, D.C., or in a traditional public square like a street. It doesn't matter, because a private actor is doing it on the behest of the U.S. government. So it's a First Amendment violation. And so the fact that we have the FBI basically being part of the Twitter trust and safety team, this is a huge problem. And they use it in the most absurd ways possible, because they're not giving Twitter internal intel. They're not even lying to Twitter saying, look, and this has happened in the past, that's why I say lying, because this is the way it kind of used to work, was you used to lie and say, look, I've got some internal classified information about XYZ topic, and you should really do this if you love your country, or here's some money, or whatever the heck the motivation to do it is. Or we know something about you that you don't want to be leaked to the public. Whatever it is, they used to lie and say, we've got some internal information that would confirm that this needs to happen in order to avoid some tragedy. right? That used to be the way it goes. This time, you know what the FBI is doing in order to censor your view of the world? They are citing PolitiFact. The FBI is literally sending PolitiFact articles to Twitter.
Interesting.
They're citing Google searches as well. They're citing Wikipedia pages. Not any special proprietary internal... It's not like the FBI is like, look, we really know that if this becomes, more common, or like this tweet gets out or this person continues to speak, that this terrorist act will happen or this whatever will happen because we have internal investigative They're not even saying that. They're literally, it's just the government's opinion being thrust purely, just opinion, the government's opinion being thrust purely onto the speech on Twitter. And if you have any brain and you know anything about what we've talked about on the show, it is not just Twitter, unless you're dumb. Like you really have to be naive to think this is only happening on Twitter. We have Elon, who's released the files for Twitter, and we're lucky for that, but it's definitely something you can expect to extend to, the other major social media platforms. What did we also talk about on the show? We talked about the fact that, that a lot of these companies were born out of the three-letter agencies. You remember? Like, we talked about like how Google has ties to the CIA through In-Q-Tel. Look that up if you want to know what it is. Literally, just go to the Wikipedia page. That is enough to get started. Really, just look up In-Q-Tel. Facebook has connections to In-Q-Tel, and a lot of the same figures that pop up in other censorship cases. Guys, I don't know what to tell you other than I didn't know this, like specific information about Twitter. I just said, look, this has happened in the past. There are no safeguards in the future. It looks like they're doing it now, and you should be on guard. And if you listened at all, this would not surprise you. The Twitter files would not be surprising whatsoever, but I think it's one of the stories of the decade. And, I told you so, is the point of what I'm saying right now, is I literally told you so. And I think I'm going to go over Twitter. Maybe I'll go over FTX in the same breath or in a separate topic. We'll see. But this whole hydra of government narrative control that I told you existed in the art world and in the media world, there you go. Vindication. You cannot tell me I'm wrong anymore. There you go. So there you go. Not a conspiracy theory, right? So there it is. Okay. Well, rant over. Shall we go along to our main topic?
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Well, if you're listening to the segment, this was our news segment. If you enjoyed any bit of this, there's much more like this on the channel and as well as on our podcasting platforms. Please subscribe, rate, like, all the nice things. We're going to go over to our gaming segment right now. Nathan hinted at it earlier, and if you want to hear that, you've got to check out the next episode. Hit that next button, hit that like button so that we can make more, and we'll see you soon.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to the Mixed Media Podcast gaming segment. In this topic segment, I'll be talking about the game industry and how I think it's running itself into the ground. I haven't been here a while. I was trying to think of my standard opening.
Should introduce ourselves.
Right, that's what we do. That's what we do here. We introduce ourselves. All right. Today there's only two of us. Ben is absent today. He'll be with us next time. So I guess I'll introduce myself first. My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and a media entrepreneur, and I own a company called Ariella.
Right. So before this segment, we talked about some news. I mentioned a little bit about Call of Duty and how that came out in November, I believe. Modern Warfare 2, I'm talking about specifically the second one. So there are obviously many issues with the industry. there is this one issue that's talked about a lot, which is I hate this like buzzword, but I've definitely said it before, the indie apocalypse, right? Where indie developers are having a harder time than ever getting their games to be successful in terms of like successful measured by sales, becoming profitable and whatnot. We see this thing of like 1,000 plus games on Steam released per month, and then we see like very, very, very poor sustainability in terms of these companies existing for any more than like their first game. But obviously there's some no issues that have been talked about time and time and time again, probably by me too, at some point. Well, there's budget, experience, or lack of experience rather, lack of discoverability because of maybe both lack of budget and lack of experience in marketing and whatnot. Also the fact that a lot of those 1,000 games, let's say considerably over 90% are pretty bad, as I've seen examining them. When I did that Steam Profit segment, I looked at the games that are being released and gave you my take and saw that there are not really that many games that are that great that get released on Steam, let alone ones that I can see being picked up by the masses. Okay, now I'm going to talk about not those problems. The problems that I think are larger companies doing it to themselves, and not only affecting the indie marketplace, but just the game industry as a whole, and how it's kind of unhealthy. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to talk about, there's a whole thing about COD coming out in November, and the first thing I want to talk about is the absolute destruction of reputation that's going on by a lot of these big companies, in the industry. I also joked before the podcast started, about Ubisoft having someone in the as the board of advisors, I think it's called, for the Game Awards. It's kind of funny because Ubisoft isn't known for making good games anymore. It's like It's interesting how there are companies like this that it seems at some point especially with the Assassin's Creed series are well acclaimed, that at some point it seems like a lot of these companies sort of just fell off the deep end. So with COD, there are quite obvious issues going on with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you go to the Steam page and you look at the reviews, you'll see it has mixed reviews, which is kind of strange. When I look at a game and see mixed reviews, I don't tend to think, I want to buy this. I think, why is it that 50% of people don't like this game? That's pretty concerning. The issue is, I downloaded Warzone for free, Warzone 2.0, because that came with Modern Warfare 2, and the issue is crashing. I literally cannot play the game. I open the game, it does not work. I open the game, I enter a match, and it crashes, and it just does that over and over and over again. On a relatively clean install of Windows, by the way, on not obscure hardware. So it's very strange. This is an issue that it's things that like this that really that really sort of sow seeds of mass discontent that I think will just start growing and growing in the future, because we see things like if you look at the game on Steam, you see it has 140,000 reviews. The game is popular in terms of the amount of people who've bought it. Maybe not in terms of how they feel about it after buying it, but in terms of people who bought it, a lot of people bought it. 140,000 reviews on Steam is crazy. This is top games. Not even prior Call of Duty. This is probably the most reviewed Call of Duty game ever, which is strange considering it is such a bad Call of Duty by many people's measures. And even the changes they made to the game are not well liked. So assuming you can actually play the game, there are issues with the actual game, things they changed and whatnot. And it feels like, why am I paying? I think it's $80. Why am I paying $80 for a worse version of a game? Yeah, I can buy Black Ops 3, for example. I'm pretty sure people still play that game, and that game's $60 at the moment. That game came out 7 years ago and is a lot better received than Modern Warfare 2. It's what's the point at this point? And you get the situation where it's people don't want to are not wanting to spend money on games anymore. We see people say things yes, I think it's kind of a more growing sentiment I've been seeing is I don't really know what I want to buy. It's man, there are 1,000 games released on Steam. How is that possible? Right, every month. How do you not know what game you want to play? Well, it's because things well, I could buy the new Call of Duty, but it might end up like many of them before or whatever. It's not like a new thing either, right? I mean, Infinity Ward didn't. I feel like this particular game was made by Infinity Ward because Call of Duty rotates around like 3 developers and then like some like like some assistant developers as well in a way. And I believe Infinity Ward, didn't they release Infinite Warfare or was that Treyarch? Well, Infinite Warfare was not received with well reviews either. But for reference, Infinite Warfare is less of like a weird story in the fact that it only has 12,000 reviews on Steam. So Modern Warfare 2 got over 10 times the amount of reviews on Steam. To put into perspective how popular, or when I say popular, I don't mean like well liked. I mean how people actually bought it. It has the record is number 10, has a 10th spot on the record for most concurrent players ever on Steam. A game that doesn't work for about half the people who play it is number 10. And so a lot of these people are going to come out feeling kind of fooled, right? And it's going to, this thing kind of keeps happening. I saw it before with Battlefield 2042. The game has mostly negative reviews on Steam. For reasons, kind of being buggy, being unfinished by some people's, some people are saying. Some people say they don't like the specialist system. And you see this even more recently with the Callisto Protocol, which is a game released by the studio. I can't remember the studio's name, but it's their first game, which you might be like, oh, it's the first game, what's the big deal? Well, it had high expectations because it was released by the person behind that studio was the former vice president of Visceral Games, which you might have heard of before. They created, of course, Dead Space, and it was also going to be a Dead Space-like game. It was a while ago where it's kind of a meme that there are a lot of Dead Space-like games coming out. I think it was during E3, I think it was, or did E3 happen? No, wait. Yeah, wait. What was it during? It was during something that happened. I think it was either like a year ago or something like that, where a lot of Dead Space-like games were coming out, or were being announced at least. The Callisto Protocol was one of them in terms of like things that were showed off at that event. I can't remember what it was. That had high expectations. Because Dead Space people, right, making a Dead Space-like game, like surely, right? Like you made
that
3
sounds
Dead
really
Spaces.
Good to me.
I mean, I know Dead Space 3 is like the most highly acclaimed thing, right? I played it, I thought it was fun, but it's not the most highly acclaimed thing ever. But it's like, you did it 3 times at least decently enough. And it's like, well, the third one, it's like, the Callisto Protocol, it's like, it's another issue of it can't be played because the performance is really bad. It's like such a strange issue. It's like we can't even get to the game because it just doesn't work. It's like, what is the point of all this effort? You might as well give me like, I don't know, like
but
anything
why
that crashes.
does this happen?
It's the same.
Why is this happening?
Right, and
more
that's
often
the question.
now?
It's like, why does this happen now? Well, I think there could be cases for like, well, games are more complicated nowadays, right? Dead Space was made a long time ago. The Callisto Protocol is a lot more recent. It's leveraging more recent technology and stuff like that. Things like that. Technically the hardware I'm using is more native to Dead Space 1 versus the Callisto Protocol, though I don't know when Dead Space came out. I think it came out before my graphics card came out. So I don't know if there's really an excuse for that. Yeah, it's pretty old. Even Dead Space 3 looks old, so I assume Dead Space 1 is even older. Dead Space 3... I think Dead Space has forced mouse acceleration, if I recall correctly. Like, there's no option to turn it off, so that shows its age. But yeah, so it's like there's that, right? But it's like also, something I can't get behind. I really would like to know this. Like, I'm sure there's actually a reason, right? Because they did release it, right? I'm sure they didn't decide, wow, this game doesn't work. Let me release it anyway. Like, well, they decided that maybe, but there's like some reason why they released it, right? I really wonder why though, because they know what's going to happen, right? Certainly, if you're testing your game, at least especially for COD, I mean, you are COD, right? You have 3 companies, you have three plus development studios behind you, and you have Activision Blizzard behind you, right? So like certainly you have the resources to like, I don't know, buy some hardware and do some tests, right? like buy some cheap old hardware too, do some tests, whatever. I'm really wondering if it worked on their own computers when they're testing it, because with the performance issues or the crashing that was reported, it's like a lot of machines, right? I know there's a pattern in like, it's like people with this architecture graphics cards specifically that are affected. And then test on this architecture, whatever it was, if that was the case, so clearly the architecture was common enough, right? Where it's like a big problem to the point where you're having pretty bad reviews. So you think they would test these things and whatever, figure it out. And if that's the case, then it'd be like, well, let's either not release it or release it and say, hey, if you have this set of hardware or whatever, just so you know, this game doesn't really work. So like we'll fix it eventually, because they almost certainly will fix it. It's always like that. We'll fix it eventually. Just like don't get it now and get it later, right?
That's
I understand that's not really good.
That's
not good for business, right?
Yeah.
They want to be the 10th most played game by concurrent players on Steam. That's what they want, right? And they got it. It worked. I don't know how much COD cost to make, but I know they made their money if they got that record. There's no amount of money you could spend. The game cost $80, I think, on Steam, right? So.
Oh my.
I believe it's $80.
That's the first time I've heard of an $80 AAA.
Sorry,
game.
it's 70. It's 70. It's 70.
Okay.
Yeah. So 70 standard now for that. Yeah. $70 game, by the way. It doesn't work. You can find $5 indie games that actually run. Very strange. So yeah, that's I've seen it before, obviously, with like Cyberpunk 2077, and I think it's going to keep happening over and over and over again as long as these companies are able to just do this, right?
But how are they not being economically punished? Is it the console market that does that? That thought just came to mind.
Well, when we're looking at these, I'm looking at the numbers of PC only, right? Because I'm only looking at Steam. I'm not even considering people who bought the game on Battle.net. That's what it's called, all right? Because you can't see that on Steam. So there's a whole bunch of those people, right? There's a bunch of people who probably bought Battlefield on Origin instead of Steam, right? I can't count those as well, so I don't really know. I actually don't know. I wonder if the console market is it might be a better place because their games might work because the hardware is standardized, and they are literally like, if your game doesn't work on that hardware, it is not working for anybody, right? Yeah. That's kind of a big issue. So I guess it's a plus for consoles that their games tend to actually work, probably. So there's the issue of reputation, right? And it just seems to be getting worse. I really like to do some studying into why this is, and maybe I'll do that and come back and be like, okay, because I'm really only looking at one side of the story. Obviously, I don't really know what the clearly some pressure to release and stuff like that, right? Things like the Callisto Protocol. I don't know if it was a sort of money scheme, like that. Maybe it was. I don't know, but they don't have that much. I don't think especially as a new studio, even if you have the former vice president of Dead Space on your team, I don't really know if you have that kind of leverage to throw around and be like, okay, let's absolutely ruin my reputation to the point where I can never make another game without incredible scrutiny again, just for a little quick buck here, I don't know if they have that kind of weight to throw around. But DICE and EA definitely have that kind of weight with Battlefield and with COD, same kind of thing. I think there's also an issue with the consumers too, right? It's like, don't buy the game immediately. Please do not buy the game immediately. It's not that hard, right? I don't know. I played Warzone 2.0. I pseudo played it. It crashed multiple times, but I tried to play, I guess. But even obviously it's free. But even then, I wasn't really rushing to play it. I was like, I'll play it, at some point, and I played it.
How many gigs do you commit for Warzone 2?
Oh, I don't know. I actually don't know what the size is.
Is it a third of a terabyte yet? Is it half a terabyte yet?
It's not an update, sadly. It's not an update to Warzone 1. So I don't know if you can still play Warzone 1, because it's technically a separate game, right? I downloaded Warzone 2 separately. Right. So presumably I can still play Warzone 1, which I hope so, because, I'd rather do that, because I can actually play it. Also, they removed Resurgence, which is like a mini game mode within Warzone, and I like that. I actually preferred that than the normal Warzone game mode. But yeah, so that's that for reputation, right? And you have issues of on the other half. So I see two big problems, right? You have this half of game studios who are creating they're in terms of COD and Battlefield, they're regularly scheduled games that are hit or miss and oftentimes miss, and they make their money regardless, right? And then you have on the other half, you have the people who don't make games very often, like Riot Games, for example, right? Pretty big game company. What have they made? They made League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, Valorant, and I think there's a fourth thing I'm forgetting. I can't remember what it is, but something. Big companies like that make something every once in a while. Say Psyonix. Psyonix made SARP, and then they made Rocket League, and they haven't made anything ever again, pretty much. Rocket League is pretty old, relatively speaking. Valve is kind of in that camp in a way. I mean, they've released VR stuff, and obviously they're working on VR technology in general. So I guess I wouldn't quite put them in the same thing. I wouldn't say they're part of the same issue I'm about to describe. So here's the issue. You have this issue where you have people who are stuck in a game for a prolonged period of time, right? So everybody's saying, well, why is that an issue, right? Isn't replayability like the gold standard, right? Everyone's talking about replayability. People say, great game, but I can't recommend it because there's no replayability to it, right? And they refund it. I mean, yes, replayability is nice, but you have this sort of issue where like part of the reason why people, indie game developers, for example, can't get as much money as they would like to get is because you have you have a pie chart, right? You have a giant pie of like the total amount of money being spent, right? And you can allocate portions of that pie to different things. You have, portion allocated to like, the college shovelware that, fails every once in a while, right? And the Battlefield stuff. And you have pie, maybe a little sliver dedicated to like indie games. And you have a pretty decent amount of the pie. Well, actually, you have a pie that will never be spent because people will only play free-to-play games, for example, and never spend money on them, for example, right? Which is fine. It's kind of like me, for example. I played Valorant. Actually, I don't think I've ever spent money on any game that I didn't have to spend money on. So Rocket League and things like that. And then you have like a pie that's sort of entrenched forever and allocated to certain games forever. So not literally, but like effectively. For example, people who have, for me, for example, if I were to spend money on any game, let's imagine that I spend money on free-to-play games. I'd probably spend a lot of money on Rocket League, for example. Now, all that money going to Rocket League is not going to any other game. And I've played Rocket League for almost 3 years at this point, right? So, and it's kept me pretty content, right? That's like 3 years of not buying, of spending my money on Rocket League versus other games. And this is applicable to a lot of games, like Valorant, for example, CSGO, League of Legends. You have people with thousands of hours in these games, right? Obviously, those are like the minority. But, hundreds of hours is not like incredibly rare for these games, right? And so you have whole groups of people who are really dedicated to the game who don't really play many games in general. So here's a little anecdote. I was talking to somebody, this is literally just kind of happened. I was talking to somebody last night. And they were saying, I don't really have anything to do right now. And they mentioned that they played, he played League of Legends, right? And that he kind of bored with League of Legends, and that he was going to get back to it later, right? Like, it's something that just happens. It just kind of happens in cycles. He plays League of Legends, gets bored of it eventually, stops playing, then he has nothing to do, and he gets bored, and he comes back to League of Legends, right? There's a little cycle, a little recharge, I guess. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the issue. It's like he's so entrenched into League of Legends that he, even in his downtime where he's not playing League of Legends, he's not buying any other game. he's still only like dedicated to League of Legends. I don't think this is that uncommon, actually, in general, people doing these things. You'll see it with Overwatch 2 as well, right? That's recently free. And these companies are realizing, wait a minute, this free-to-play model is actually really good, right? Because the barrier to entry is non-existent, right? You get a bunch of these people who like the game and they really like the game, and you have high replayability because all these free-to-play games, like Overwatch and whatnot, are based on like the replayability, right? It's like every match is like a new match. Obviously, not like a new game necessarily, right? But it's like it's not going to be boring, right? It's not like playing like a linear story game and you play it again. It's like, wow, this is the exact same thing, It's you're meant to be able to play it over and over and over again, like any sort of like conventional sport, like soccer or basketball, right? You can play that, for decades and not be bored of it.
Yeah,
I suspect you'll see this with things like League of Legends and whatnot, and Overwatch and whatever, where people will be stuck on those games, and which is like maybe good for them in a way, in that they're having fun or whatever, right? But you have the issue where the money is not going anywhere else, and it's kind of like choking the whole system. And so I think you'll see. Here's my prediction. My prediction is that what you see is a lot more of these big companies will enter the sort of business of long-term game enjoying, where it's kind of like a Netflix subscription in a way, right? Where Netflix kind of just like hopes that you'll have the subscription for a long amount of time, right? They don't make money. They don't make money off of you if you get 1 month and you leave, right? That's not worth anything. You know, they need you to stay. The same thing for these video games is that they need to stay a while. So I think that'd be a more popular trend going forward, and it's going to just naturally reduce the amount of games that will exist because, well, instead of releasing a Call of Duty that will flop every once in a while, or whatever, what if we have a perfect Call of Duty, right? It just kind of exists forever, right? No, I don't think this is the Call of Duty way, right? I think if Call of Duty decided one day, hey, we're going to stop making Call of Duty, people would be like, what? That's very strange, and I don't like that, right? It's kind of a thing nowadays, right? Or it's been the thing for forever, right? But things that people like Riot Games, whatever, you know, or the new Riot Games type companies that will come out in the future, they'll do these things, they'll capitalize off of it, and they'll keep shrinking the pie over and over and over again until it sort of gets more and more dry. I think there's also, you know, a lot of potential for an unhealthy relationship with these games as well, and the fact that it sounded like the guy I was talking about before, I didn't really talk to him that much, right, about it, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if like it's less of like I'm actually having fun, and more of like I need the dopamine hit because you know this is how I've like sort of trained my brain over like the years I've been playing this, right? And I've had this thought before myself. It's like, for example, I don't use Instagram anymore, and what I realized is like for me it wasn't enjoyable. It was like a dopamine hit every single time, right? It's like. When you pull out your phone and like, I never think, oh boy, I can't wait to open Instagram. That's never a thought that comes across probably 99% of Instagram users' minds. Okay, nobody's like, oh boy, Instagram, wow, I can't wait to get home and just open the app. Right? It's more like something you kind of instinctually do when you're bored, and you might not even notice you're doing it. Kind of just pull out your phone, and before you know it, you're on the app, and you're like, wait a minute, how did I even get here? You know, you're studying, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, why is
that's
there?
That's how those apps are designed.
Like, why are there memes in front of me all of a sudden, right? Like, yeah. And I think this is the general trend, like the same sort of like thing, maybe not intentionally, or maybe intentionally, depending on I guess how what you believe. These things might be being exploited in the video games industry. And I've had this thought about Rocket League. Like, do I actually enjoy Rocket League? Because I was playing Rocket League, and I was like, man, I kept losing. I was like, man, this is like genuinely not enjoyable. This is like actually a negative experience at this point, right? Like, I'm not having a fun time. Like I'd rather be sit here and do nothing at this point, right? Rather than keep losing at this point, right? And I thought I was like, I don't know if I want to play Rocket League anymore, which is very strange because I would consider Rocket League my favorite game of all time. I know there's a movie like a Rocket League, really, like it's not like it doesn't have like crazy like emotional value, for example, right? Like as like my favorite movies might have emotional value, right? But like Rocket League seems like more like a cheap, not a cheap, but like a kind of non-emotionally evoking TV show. You know what I'm saying? It's like a sitcom in a way. You know, it's kind of like something like, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, it's good, you know, but it's like it's not nothing gourmet, right? It's like it's just all right, you know, like it'll satisfy you, right?
Yeah.
I think the issue might have been that like at the start I definitely enjoyed it a lot, even though I was losing, right? It's like, oh, I'm learning, whatever. I think part of it is that I stopped playing for a while. I started playing again, and now I'm just like way worse than my rank, and so it's just like I just generally don't win. It just feels kind of bad. It feels like how I imagine a aging 30-year-old basketball player to feel. It's like, wow, it is ending. my time is over. You know. I mean, in the NBA, obviously, if you're like 30 years old playing pickup games, you're probably fine. But like, you know, in the NBA, I think that's kind of how I feel like as my progression has sort of stopped. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm no longer getting that kind of enjoyment. And for me, it's kind of like, well, I spent the last 3 years kind of like having fun with this game, and suddenly I'm not. But then I'm still having the urge to play it, probably because my brain's like, oh, this is like a you know, is a good thing, right? I mean, certainly, you know, certainly in the past has been a good thing. It's like, not anymore, maybe.
Pathway.
Yeah, so I decided to stop playing at Rocket League, at least for a while, just to see what happens, you know. Yeah, the reward pathway, that's what it is. I got to rewire my mental circuitry, so, yeah. But yeah, that's what I fear being exploited for a lot of people. You see it with, you know, Instagram, TikTok. You know, you see people on TikTok for like unhealthy amount of times per day. And if you're able to leverage that in a video game setting where with TikTok, it's like, okay, how does TikTok have ads? I've never downloaded it, never will. But
Yeah,
is
it
that
has
ads?
I don't.
so I guess-
I don't have TikTok either, but I've never had TikTok. But it has ads. I know that for sure.
Okay, so I can imagine a situation where there's a game that just tries to gamify that, right? Or use the same principles, especially if they try to like you're somehow short form content is king. You somehow try to shove short form content into a video game. I don't know how it's possible, but it could happen.
You could think of like little mini AI generated mini games like that just keep generating. Like if you swipe up, you just have a new mini game.
You kind of see that with like catch up games, right? Little little trash as the bots are invading the chat again.
Yeah, of course. I will nuke the bots.
I'll get rid of the Discord on Discord, but you get like hold on, I'm deleting. All right, delete. Yeah, you get like those little games for the catch-up releases that are kind of trash, but they hit the sweet spot on the dopamine. Easy to open, low effort, lower reward is what I've heard is the king. I don't know how that works. I'm no neuroscientist, but so those are the two things I see. The industry doing to itself, just destroying its own reputation, and the sort of entrenchment of money within certain companies that's going to be hard to release. And I've been thinking about just because I imagine if you can figure a way to, once again, I'm not saying like, okay, we ought not to have League of Legends exist or something like that, right? But I'm just saying, if you could find a way to release money from these systems, you can probably make a lot of money, right? So I've been thinking about how you can tap into this essentially untappable population of chronic League of Legends players and whatnot. And another thing is onto the dopamine tangent is that a lot of times you'll hear, I think is kind of well known in the League community, is people will tell you, yeah, I don't really enjoy playing League, it's just the best thing like it out there. And I wonder if it's not really that's the best thing it out there, or maybe it is that, but maybe that's more like a reason that is not the actual reason. Like they don't actually realize potentially that it might just be more of like a psychological right word, a neurological development that has happened. But I don't know. I'm no a neurologist. I think is who studied that kind of stuff, or psychiatrist. Is that what that is? Yeah, I don't really know, but I wouldn't be surprised. That's pretty much it.
Nice. That was a very interesting topic. I never considered the whole free to play whatever. So wait. So my question is, why doesn't COD? You said it's not in their DNA to do it, but to me, I don't. Maybe Warzone is actually the attempt for them to do it. Actually, now I think about it, to do like the free to play model and just I think. Yeah, that's a free-to-play entry, right? I mean, I think they kind of botched it with Warzone 2.0. That doesn't work, right? It's like you didn't have to release the second one. You guys update the first one or something. I don't know. Like I feel like they're trying to regenerate hype or something.
Maybe, but the thing is, you could have done a big there's a big update or something. I don't know, especially because I don't know if you can still play Warzone 1, but if you can, you sort of like now you've fractured the player base. It's kind of strange. I don't really understand the business move, but I mean, you don't have to. I guess it doesn't have to be the same game, right? So if you release Warzone 2 or Warzone 3 and so on, right? As long as it's free, it fulfills the same thing, right? It is like an update, anyways, right? Yeah. The only issue is you have to keep downloading the new game, I guess.
Yeah, you just randomly increase the barrier to entry. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't get it actually. Yeah. Maybe they released it separately because they knew the game didn't work and they didn't want to break the original one. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't really know how to fix it other than like consumer knowledge or creating a better product. But it's like, what does creating a better product look like if you're having people using these patterns, using these patterns to attract people? It's like, how do you make something that can beat that?
Yeah. So
how do you make a TikTok competitor, for example? It's like that's kind of
Oh my gosh, another bot.
Oh, they were bad. Is it the same one? Or is it a different
No,
one?
it's a different bot. Okay, smashing bot
I
time.
wonder, how does YouTube not like? Because clearly the patterns are obvious, right? Like excessive use of emojis, random capital letters, and I think there's like some like spam filter. I can at least like I don't know.
I don't
Some
know,
of them are
it's
so like algorithmable. I feel like like it's like
I don't know. They make such a big deal about trust and safety, and then they can't even do this. But anyway,
yeah.
but so I just looked it up actually, and so apparently Warzone 1 is still playable under a different title called Warzone Caldera. So they actually
What the
relaunched the first game into
Oh
a
no,
different
Warzone
game.
Caldera. Warzone Caldera didn't that come out? That came out before Warzone 2. I think Warzone Caldera, I believe, was an update for Warzone that added a Caldera map, which is like a collapsed volcano. So it added like a map with like a giant collapsed volcano
Okay.
in it.
Well, so that
Because I played on that map before Warzone 2 came out. So I guess that's what they call it now. I don't know. I didn't know. I was not aware of that.
so yeah, so you can still play Warzone 1 though, just under that
Okay.
title.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be promptly uninstalling, I guess, Warzone 2 and playing Warzone 1 instead.
Yeah.
So,
Or maybe they just thought of this too. Maybe what they want is the ability to experiment between different versions or whatever and see what ends up coming out on top, and then they just kind of lean into it.
maybe. Yeah, but if the first one comes out on top, then they have to like axe the second one. Like it's kind of strange, you know?
It might not be strange in 5 years though. You know what I mean? Like,
Maybe.
and they have like more of an excuse. Warzone 2 kind of got tired, and we'll just leave classic Warzone alone. I guess I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, if you have your own theory, put it in the comments.
Oh, I just realized CS:GO did this before it went free, right? It went free to play. And this is a while ago. It was a long time ago. It was like years ago. But it went free to play.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Kind of did the same thing. They're not making another, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if there's a CS like in the works. I doubt it. One thing I did think about with what was it? There was some game. Oh yeah. Man, what was it? Oh man, it was like on the tip of my tongue. There's some game I was talking to someone about. Oh, Hearts of Iron. Hearts of Iron 4 also kind of is leaning into like this game will exist forever kind of thing because they're adding DLC, right? Which is fine. And they recently added a subscription service for DLC, which is all right, whatever. It's actually pretty high value. But the thing is, I thought they're never going to make a Hearts of Iron 5 because people keep playing the fourth one, and once they make a 5, all the DLC is gone. Like, no one's going to buy that anymore. No one's going to buy their new subscription service. If they didn't make the new subscription service, I'd have been like, oh, maybe, DLC, we're going to stop making that. It's like, they just added this. It's like, we got some time. It'll be a long time. Even though the game is incredibly buggy and incredibly, like, bad in many ways to the point where,
Well,
games
just
rounds
like
are
another
unplayable
Paradox
without
game.
console cheats,
It's just like another Paradox game, City Skylines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Although there's a difference, though. 'Cause City Skylines is made by Paradox's publisher, not Paradox Interactive, which is the developer behind Hearts
But
of
it's
Iron.
the same business model. Just endless DLC.
Yeah.
They're still releasing. There's a new DLC coming out. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the rate of DLC has actually increased as the game has aged.
This is a new play by the publisher, The game at the moment is $30. It's been out for 7 years. And the game is still buggy, right? Is that the issue? Is it buggy or is it
Oh
content?
yeah.
I
Well,
forget what
the
it
base
is.
game is actually just not fun to play at all.
Okay, yeah.
It's buggy. There's no freedom. You need mods to even have fun, like at all. And like the DLC like make the game like straight up like the game sucks without it.
If you read the first review, at least as of now on Steam, I read the second paragraph. It says, "But just skimming at the content section of the store page, there should not be $300 plus worth of DLC. We cannot keep letting Paradox get away with their greedy practices with the sequel to City Skyline. When the sequel to City Skylines finally comes, which might be never." So,
Exactly.
this person has, by the way, 500 hours on a record on this game. It's a not recommend.
Yeah, and I mean the solution to this, like everyone is like, there are videos about City Skylines too, even though there's like not even a shred of a rumor from like the developer that they're even making it, right? Like, so we don't, but people want it so bad that they're already starting the rumor mill, like on, not the rumor mill, but like, you know, they're speculating already about what's coming in and what should be in City Skylines 2, because it's really just that due. Like, the graphics need updating, the optimization needs updating, the whole like core gameplay model, like the whole, like all the mechanics need updating, like everything needs updating, and we can see how like a 2 would go because we understand how other games have progressed, you know, like introduction of like more advanced AI and other stuff, and it's like they just don't do it, even though everyone's kind of begging them, like, take my money. But the thing is, people don't realize that if they sell, you know, City Skylines 2 for $60, or whatever, and it's a more fully fleshed out game, you know, you're not going to buy. Like, maybe the average player, you know, or the average amount of money they can expect, you know, per month averages out per player to be like something like $100 of DLC, you know, or something like that. That's right. So much more than $60 for a game, even though you're like, it's $60, I'll give you all of it. Like, you know, maybe I'll even give you 70 for a new game. They're like, well, that's not the same as 100 though. You know?
Right.
So
yeah,
it's kind of crazy, but
and they take on a risk every time they make a new one, right? Because although with some of these games, like, how can you get worse? But really, like, I don't know, like. Yeah, they take on risk because they don't know, but maybe at the same time they kind of know, right? Because the hype is so high, so they could pull a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, in which case then the hype is so big, right? Even if the game is trash, like they'll get their money.
Well, I was gonna say maybe the solution is a subscription model at that point, then, and you just, instead of like, you just say like, look, City Skylines 2, like you'll get that like 50% off or something like that if you're on the subscription. Maybe that's the way to, like, and then now that you have the prepaid money, making DLC is kind of like built into the game. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of expected, and everyone expects it, and that's how it goes. If that makes sense.
What's interesting is there's one game that has been like defying all laws of monetary practices that works. That's World of Warcraft. That's been doing the subscription model since like. For like 2 decades at this point or something like that. I don't know. It's old. Like 2005 or something like that, whenever it came out. I don't know if they started the subscription model, but assuming they did, like, man, I mean, and it's worked, right? It's like, it's just like, and they keep adding expansions, right? I don't know if you have to buy into the expansion packs, or if it's like, I don't know how that works, you know?
No idea.
Or if it just comes included. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about World of Warcraft, but whatever it is, right? Yeah, it seems to work.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Well, good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You want to outro us on your section?
Sure. Thank you for listening to my ramblings on the video game industry and how it kind of sucks in many ways. Yeah, if you like the episode, you know, make sure to follow us on all our things everywhere, wherever you might want us. We're everywhere, by the way, if you didn't know that. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Apple Podcasts, wherever you might find us. You can listen to our show on Discord. There's no other podcast you'll find that, okay? On Discord, when we're live, you can watch it straight from the voice channel or whatever. So that's a feature no one else has. So if you go to mixedmediapodcast.com, you can find a link to everywhere, including our Discord, where you can also talk to us. That's the best way to reach out to us. You can have one-on-one conversations, or I guess community conversations, but you know, in a more personal setting than like YouTube comment section, for example. You can have an actual, you know, back and forth, whatever. Yeah, make sure to check out our locals, where you can, you know, if you're really liking the content, you can get some perks from there. I don't remember what they are, but you can find them on locals. Go to mixedmediapodcast.com to find the locals link, and there you can find the perks. Join our locals, and yeah. Thanks for watching this segment.
Sweet. All right, and we're gonna start mixed media movies. That's the word.
Mixed media movies.
All right, welcome back to Mixed Media. We're back for another Arguing with Reddit, and this should be a little exciting. because it's always exciting. I had no specific reason why this one would be more exciting than others, except that it's arguing with Reddit and it's fun. And what is arguing with Reddit? It's a live reaction to hot takes from Reddit that I have not seen before. In fact, I haven't seen any of these because producer wife had picked the ones for me. So real quick, let's introduce ourselves over again. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Yes, and Ben is currently absent, so he won't be joining us today for arguing with Reddit. So it's just us. Oh, a little out of frame. Oh, there we go. And yeah, without further ado, because this tends to go, chop chop, let's just dive right into it. So I'm going to pick the first one that Nathan, the one that Nathan found me. So actually, sure. No. Actually, I'm gonna skip that one for now because I have two from me, so I'll sandwich you in between.
Sounds good.
Let's see here. Okay, so this is one that producer wife found, so I have no idea what the heck it is. In the meantime, you can go check out mixedmediapodcast.com, where there are links to pretty much anything you could possibly want to know about our podcast. There's a heads up, a lot of great exclusive content coming to the locals. Some of it will be free, by the way. I don't think I've mentioned that on the show yet. If you go there and you just sign up, and you literally just make an account, and you just follow our page, it will prompt you, by the way, to join as like a member, like a paid member. You don't have to do that. You just click away. And then you're in the community for free. You'll see whatever free posts that we put, which will probably be a lot of them. Like all the interviews that I did for my last video for my YouTube channel will all be on there for free. The full-length interviews, because I had to chop them up to make them shorter. But all the full-length ones will be on the channel there for free. There's going to be some other stuff on there for free as well, and the paid stuff is going to be some stuff that actually has utility use for you. So it's like it's not even just entertainment. Like there's utility behind them. So yeah, that's the general scheme. So get on there. Mixedmedia.locals.com. Okay, that was long. Let's get into the first argument with Reddit. Okay, so this one says 2022 has given me back hope. Given me back hope. Is that proper English? Okay, has given me back.
Giving me hope back? I
think sounds good to
I don't know.
Anymore.
Yeah, 2022 has given me hope and good cinema as well. I just say, giving me back. I don't know. The back goes somewhere. I don't know.
2022 has given me back hope in good cinema. I have been very disappointed with cinema the last few years. Like it was really decadent and very focused in Marvel, which I particularly don't like very much. But wow, The Northman, 13 Lives, and RRR, which I don't know if that refers to you, sue me, have been like a huge 10 out of 10 for me, and I hope that Avatar 2 will also be amazing. Last year, Coda was also a great film. Wow, this person, we're probably of the same feather.
It's just for so you know, RRR is actually the name. It's not an acronym. It's the name of the film in 2022. It's an Indian film.
Oh, okay. I never heard of it. That's great. I really wish cinema can resurrect from the ashes so we can enjoy more contemporary classics. Yes, contemporary classics. Yes, we don't want to live in a museum. This person is speaking my language. I actually have been very uncaught up with cinema this year. It's one of my biggest holes in my life right now is because I haven't watched many movies this year because I've been so busy dealing with a lot of complicated stuff. When I was living in New York, and then moving here, and then acquainting to here, then restarting my channel, then trying to get a customer base back up in here. It's been absolutely nuts. So I haven't been watching too many contemporary movies, which is a big regret of mine. Also, there's no movie theater in my town, which is like, excuse me.
that's a business opportunity right there, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There used to be one. There's not one anymore.
Oh, that probably means it's not a business opportunity. What happened?
Oh no! I don't think I disagree. I think it is an opportunity, but maybe that will come to fruition. That'd be pretty insane. But
yeah.
In either case, though, I can't really comment on what's happening in 2022 too much. But I will say the decrease of stature of Marvel has been really refreshing in one way, but also a double-edged sword in that, not a double-edged sword, it's just the same sword cutting cinema more. Which is that the slots that Marvel took have not been filled in terms of like mass market consumption. So like, prior to Marvel destroying everything, and I'm speaking strongly because we know that I feel strongly about Marvel. Prior to Marvel destroying everything and Disney taking over like literally the entire theater and monopolizing all the content that you see. Prior to that, we had contemporary classics that had mass appeal. So Avatar 1 would be a perfect example, right? So that I would consider that to be a classic. It's deservingly so. Like it's actually a good movie, maybe not the best movie of all time, but it had mass appeal. Mass appeal. I mean, it literally had the record, for most money made by a movie for a very long time until Marvel started to smash those records for itself. But it wasn't all Avatar movies. It was Avatar, and it was I don't know, name all the classics that you know about already, right? These movies were seen in the cinema by the masses. And we haven't seen the return to that, even if we've seen a decline in Marvel, which should scare you. That should scare you. That should be a little terrifying. So we need Avatar 2 to be good. I said this before on a different argument with Reddit, I'm pretty sure. We need Avatar 2 to be good. Like, desperately. If it's bad and it flops, I don't know what happens. Because it's like one of the best shots we have to bring mass appeal back to non-Disney. Oh, sorry. Avatar 2 is Disney now. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yikes. That's unfortunate.
Right? Am I wrong about that? I think it's a Fox movie.
Avatar.
I think it's 20th Century Fox.
It is 20th Century Studios, yeah.
Oh wow. See, so they bought it. They bought our only way out. They bought our only way out. What a monopoly, guys. I don't know what to say. Because that movie was well into production before Disney bought Fox. So, and I don't know what to say. But hopefully it is independent enough in its style and its messaging and its content and everything like that. It doesn't feel like a Disney movie, hopefully. And if it's still, that still can get us out of there, hopefully. Out of this situation where all of our content is monopolized by people who don't want you to own movies. And they don't want you to own your own experience. Producer Wife is saying in the chat, read the Marvel comments right below this. Lol, okay. I'm sure there's some Marvel lovers who are mad about the... Marvel is roughly 1% of all theatrical releases on a big year. Are you psychotic? What kind of analysis is this? Okay, let me roast this person real quick. Let me get the mic real close here.
Well,
a lot of movies get made, and no one sees them. Okay, that's the quick and dirty with that one. 1% of all movies, I guarantee you don't, like, people don't understand. There's like maybe 100 movies per year that are actual movies that you would think of like as movies that get released in a theater, like people go see them. Like there's like 100 movies a year, and there are thousands of movies that get made per year and released. So just because it's released, I've made a movie. Have you seen my movie? No. So like, so like that means nothing. Gosh, go watch any of the 100 major releases that aren't Marvel. Oh gosh, this is gonna cause an aneurysm. This level of analysis is terrible. Hey, the way Monopoly works is by starving access. Starving access. Your choice as a consumer has been destroyed by one company that refuses to compete for your dollars. That is what's happening here. Who knows how to get some random indie movie that's not even available on Blu-ray? Come on, get out of here. Get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, there are many movies. This is all a lie. So, okay, all you shills for Disney, I think we're kind of past this level of analysis. Like, this should be patently false to you. Like, obviously so. If you have any knowledge of cinema right now, you are a moron. Okay. Now that I've summarily executed this idea, let's move on to the next one. So this one is from you, Nathan.
Oh, right.
Why
So
is it
mine
labeled
is titled
not safe for work?
It's not safe. It's because it spoiled their like whatever they wrote. I guess they want to spoil like what their answer to the question. So yeah, the question is, I guess the statement that the title is the screen's messed up.
It's coming.
Okay. Foreign films that got you hooked.
Oh, I have to log in to see this? That is garbage.
Wait, what? That's strange. You guys read it, or like it's not like that? It's not long. I can just read it, I guess. But
Yeah, okay, go ahead, read it.
I think there might be websites to view it. Anyway, I don't know. Anyways, when I was in my freshman year of college, 1986, a bunch of my friends rented a VHS player and gathered to watch a movie called Manon of the Spring. I didn't know what a profound effect it would have on me. Please share what movies got you hooked and made you want to watch more foreign films. And the highest upvoted comment is City of God. I don't know if you heard of that. There's also La Femme Nikita. And so on.
So the question is basically what foreign film is, can you repeat the core question?
Please share what movies got you hooked and made you want to watch more foreign films.
Okay. Well, I there are some beautiful Japanese films out there. Japan and cinema is like is a long tradition. You don't realize because they probably think of anime when they think of Japan and cinema, but it is a very, very long tradition. And anything from anime back, honestly, there's a deep history and deep catalog of beautiful films from Japan. I can't remember the first film that I saw. It might have been an anime. But there are some beautiful films. That's the first thing that comes to me is I started exploring Japanese films first in terms of foreign films. I'm starting to want to get into sort of Eastern European films next. So I had watched a beautiful series called... Dang it, it's a Polish series, and now I'm forgetting. Maybe producer wife can remind me in the comments. But it's based off the Ten Commandments. Absolutely beautiful series. And so, yeah, we'll see. I've got some Tarkovsky films to reach into the deep cuts of Russian films. And, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that's particular. There are a few Korean films that I've watched that were really beautiful as well. Yeah, I'm trying to remember like if there's like a first that really got me into foreign films. Not particularly, but one like the thing that really is really cool about foreign films is you don't realize how different they can be in terms of style. Even like the blockbusters type stuff, or like you don't realize like how much culture is baked into like Hollywood, U.S. style, filmmaking. Whereas like a lot of foreign film have different characteristics. Like French film is characteristically existential and overly sexual, in my opinion. Kind of obsessed, but that's okay. And British humor, like British comedy, is a very particular thing. You move over to sort of Korea, you get more like social commentary, class commentary. You move towards Japan, you get a lot of introspection, and you get a lot of legend. So, like, the styles are so interestingly different, and I highly recommend, if you don't want to go to the less accessible stuff, go to more recent stuff. Like, go look at like some of the stuff that's like the most popular film that came out, in the last. Like, look at some of the more popular films that came out in Japan for the last 10 years, or like
Shoplifters, as I mentioned before.
Yes, that's Nathan's recommendation.
Best foreign language film at the Oscars.
Yes, absolutely. And foreign language films are making a big splash in sort of like the international film community, and I would say that it's definitely warranted. Like, there's a lot of great stuff coming out. So don't let the language be the barrier. It does take away, unfortunately, that you don't understand language. It's not the same, obviously, and sometimes it's nice. Sometimes in college I had that experience of watching something next to someone who did understand the language and could explain some nuance of some line. Makes it that much more rich. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. Not too complicated. I recommend it. There you go. Cool.
There's a movie I mentioned before. I think I just can't remember what it's called. So if someone knows, I mean, that'd be nice. So basically, right, it's a British movie. But did you answer the question, by the way? Did you say a movie name?
No, I said like I can't think of a specific movie. I feel like, but I said it was Japanese cinema in general that got me into foreign film first.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a British film. I mentioned it before on the podcast. I just can't remember what it's called. It's like about a horse. Or no, sorry, it's not about a horse. There's a horse in it that is symbolic, I guess. There's a horse in it. It's about a British girl who likes dancing. I don't really want to spoil it, right? So I don't really know what else to say, but I feel like if you watch the movie, and I said those two things, you probably like put the dots together. So
yeah. Like I'll give you one example, by the way, like that you probably never thought of. But if you look at American cartoon styles and you look at anime cartoon styles tend to focus on fluids. Like when they animate like body, right? So like it sounds weird, but like I mean like like rosy cheeks, right? Or like sweat, or like even like the grayness like comes over someone who's like either sad or sick or like upset or mad, things like that. Like coloration of skin, like fluid, blood, stuff like that is much more prominent in anime. Whereas in like American sort of Western style cartoons, which maybe should say American specifically, style cartoon is more focused on motion, right? So whereas in anime you'll have like a lot more like literal still frames, like sometimes, like, and it just like there's literally no motion. Like which
I wonder if it's because anime is like a direct style evolution of manga.
Yeah, that might be that.
It's like still frames are kind of required to like convey everything, right, in manga. So you just kind of make that animated, right? You fill in the blanks.
Yes. Yeah. So like that culture, that small thing, like you wouldn't have thought of that. Like like what differences happen in cultures with like cartoons? I don't know, like little drawing styles. No, like there's like even more subtle stuff, and that makes it very interesting because it's unique and can inspire you. If you are an artist yourself, to think outside the box a little bit more. So there's that. So this last one comes from Producer Wife again, and it says it's from r/movies. Again, 0 votes, man. This is crazy. Let's see if I agree or disagree. Would you consider Ridley Scott an average, mediocre filmmaker? This is spicy. Despite having a big name in Hollywood, a lot of his movies have been divisive at best. He also clearly has a big ego and tends to come across as bitter when one of his movies doesn't perform well, or when his directorial choices get criticized. Does that make him an average or even poor filmmaker in your eyes? This is a good one. I don't think Ridley Scott has been like in the film conversation a long time. What is the last thing that he's made? Let's look up Ridley Scott.
2021, he released 2 movies, House of Gucci and The Last Duel.
Right, okay. I remember House of Gucci and The Last Duel, okay.
Next year's releasing Napoleon.
Yeah, kind of mediocre releases.
The last thing I can remember being like a big thing is The Martian, which is 2015.
Yes, and that was actually a little divisive as well, though I think generally liked. Um, yeah,
Wait, he made an Alien movie for like the Alien game? What the heck?
no,
He's
he's
the
also
same. Is the same series?
yeah, he's made the Alien movie too. Like,
Wait, is the Alien? Wait, is the Alien game based off the Alien movie, or is it the other way around, or is it like, based on something else, like a book or something?
the movie is original. No, I don't know what the game is based off of.
Hold up, I just didn't. I was looking at the poster and like these look like the same aliens from Alien, the game.
Okay, well, I will say though. So like the thing about Ridley Scott is I feel like he feels like a less consistent James Cameron, if that makes sense. Like if you put it in the comments if that makes complete sense to you. Put it in the chat right now if you're watching live. If it makes sense to you that he's a lower consistency kind of low brand James Cameron, let me know if I'm correct with that assessment because I think that's very apt.
Okay, and just to be clear, Alien Isolation, the game, is based off of the Alien movie. I had no idea. I didn't know it was a movie for it, or I guess a game for. I know it was okay. I know it's based off something. You know.
Yeah. Right. So let me list some of the movies that he's directed for real quick, so that we can get a sense of the movies that he's made. So it's we've got Boy and Bicycle. This is actually too early into his career. Let me go to. Okay, so we got some TV series. Then we get The Duelist, Alien, which is the big one. Blade Runner, which is also a big one. Legend. Someone to Watch Over Me. Black Rain. Thelma and Louise, which is a big one. 1492, Conquest of Paradise. White Squall, G.I. Jane, Gladiator, Hannibal, Black Hawk Down, Matchstick Men, Kingdom of Heaven, which is a big one. So that's some of his older stuff. And then if we go up a little bit to his newer stuff, we've got The Martian, we've got Alien Covenant, let's see, The Journey, which is a short film, sorry. And The Last Duel in the House of Gucci, right? So I didn't read everything, but that gives you a flavor. So you've heard of some of those, and you've not heard of some of those other ones. And there's probably a reason. So like some of these are like considered classics, like Alien. Some of these are way more divisive, like G.I. Jane. And I feel like the reason why this happens is because, and even like Blade Runner is quite divisive. People don't realize, like, a lot of people really hate Blade Runner. I actually fall somewhere in between. I think it's a okay movie. I don't actually like. I think it's innovative in its filmmaking, but in terms of like its overall experience, I'm kind of like, yeah, I could take it or leave it. Like it's not offensive. It's not. Whatever, maybe that's blasphemy. Maybe I'm losing people as I speak. But but my point here is that what he does is he does very classic story structures. Like think of Gladiator. It's like a classic hero's journey. Think of let's see, another good example might be Black Hawk Down is like in the genre of like war film, very much so. So he does like very like classic story structures, classic themes, classic characterizations, and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like he's less warm and familiar as James Cameron, if that makes sense. Oh, I forgot Prometheus. That's a very divisive film. Robin Hood is a divisive film. And I think that he's just often not interesting enough to kind of get over the barrier of like, this might be kind of dime a dozen feeling a little bit, or like, I don't know. I don't find his filmmaking style particularly compelling. I think either his story is stellar to back his filmmaking style, or it's not. And that's what it is to me. So I think he's a good director. I don't think he's a bad director. But I think that he's often not working with a script that complements his directing style. Maybe that's what it comes down to, and that's up to him too, right? That's his fault. Like, he picks what films he works on, and maybe you should stick to the more like big action pick sort of vibe that has very straightforward themes. I think that's probably the way to go for him. But yeah, I don't have that much more to say. Let me see what the comments say. Maybe they'll have more interesting things to say than I said. The same Ridley Scott who made Alien, Blade Runner, and Gladiator. Okay, so you picked out the good ones. Like, of course, like, he's made legendary films. Absolutely not, despite having a couple stinkers to his name. There are a few of his films, and a few of them are great. Great as in really great. Okay. I mean, I don't disagree. Like, I guess I'm talking about consistency more than, like, is he capable? Of course he's capable.
It's like Eminem.
Yeah. I won't deny he's been a hit or miss, but even at his worst, I still don't mind it. I actually agree with that take. I don't mind his bad ones. They're kind of just average movies. And I guess that's what it is, right? Like, when you get put into the category of great directors, everyone expects your films to at least be in the great scale, whereas, like, he's not like in the average ranking, typically. He's usually in like the list of, like, greatest living directors, he's usually in that list. So if you're viewing it from that lens, it might be slightly disappointing sometimes. If you're viewing it in the lens of, like, is he a good director generally speaking? I think he's a good director generally speaking. He can tell a story, decently enough. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Let me know if you disagree in the comments about that take. I know Ridley Scott has some fans, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this week's edition of Arguing with Reddit, hit the plus button if you're on Rumble. The great thing about Rumble is it's a well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it could be a little bit more refined on Rumble's end. But it's kind of cool because it's a meritocracy. So if you hit the plus button, it is like every other plus button on every other video, meaning it impacts it all the same. It's a meritocracy. So it pushes me up the ranking just as much as it pushes up someone who has 1 million, subscribers on Rumble, right? So hit that plus button because it really helps if you really enjoy it, to push it up the rankings for sure. On YouTube, hit the like button anyway because supposedly the algorithm does something with it. That's a lot more opaque. I have no idea. And if you're on podcast form, if you listen to this in post, rate us. If it's less than 5 stars, even if it's 4 stars, I would love to know why it's not perfect so that we can make more content that you like. Even if it is perfect, even if you absolutely love the podcast, let us know what we could do better, or if whatever we're doing good so that we can keep doing it. Let us know what those things are so that we know. And you can find all links to all those things at mixedmediapodcast.com. And we're here every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the time being, and then we'll be back to our normal time at 9:30 p.m. This was Mixed Media. My name is Irving. His name is Nathan. We'll see you next. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Oh, here we go.
Look, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, 2-tone, I need